You've probably heard that words have power. But what if I told you that the words you speak every day are actually shaping your financial reality? Not just influencing it, shaping it. Because every word carries energy. Every phrase you repeat is either planting seeds of abundance or reinforcing patterns of lack. This isn't just metaphor. It's spiritual law, and it's psychological science. Let's go deeper. The subconscious mind is always listening. It doesn't argue. It doesn't question. It receives. It records. And most importantly, it responds. When you speak words with intention, especially words about your money, your worth, and your future, you are issuing commands to that inner part of yourself that governs action, emotion, and ultimately, results. Now, imagine doing this daily. Imagine choosing 10 deliberate, high-frequency, wealth-aligned sentences and speaking them with clarity and conviction. That's not just affirming. That's programming. Florence Scovel Shinn called the spoken word a wand of power. She taught that words are not just sounds. They are thought forms, alive with spiritual substance. When you speak from faith and authority, you are not begging the universe. You are co-creating with it. And you're doing it through one of the most overlooked tools in existence, in your own voice. You see, most people speak against their good without even realizing it. They complain about bills, stress over prices, mock wealthy people, and say things like, "I can't afford that," or "Money doesn't grow on trees." These aren't just harmless phrases. These are daily affirmations, negative ones. And because they're repeated so often, they become belief systems, they become financial set points. But when you reverse that, when you start declaring words like, "Money flows to me freely and abundantly," or "I am aligned with the energy of wealth," you begin to construct a new inner blueprint, one based not in lack, but in limitlessness. Of course, this isn't about magic words spoken once and forgotten. It's about consistent vibration. The universe responds to clarity, not confusion. When you speak powerfully, repeatedly, and with emotional alignment, you signal a clear intention, and life begins to organize itself around that signal. Opportunities start appearing, ideas flow more freely. You notice synchronicities you'd have missed before. Not because the words are mystical, but because your mind becomes aligned with the outcomes you desire. And from that space, you act differently. You notice different things. You become magnetic to wealth, because you're no longer pushing it away with your unconscious dialogue. Now, some people might ask, isn't this just wishful thinking? No, wishful thinking is hoping without foundation. This is intentional speaking backed by spiritual law. The law that says what you consistently speak and believe will materialize in form. Not always instantly, but always eventually, because the universe mirrors your dominant vibration, not your fleeting hope. So when I say, speak these 10 sentences daily, I'm not offering a gimmick. I'm offering a tool. A precise, repeatable, transformational tool to help you build wealth from the inside out. You're not convincing anyone but yourself. And once you believe something deeply enough, the world starts to believe it too. Your clients feel it. Your bank account reflects it. Your life begins to echo your words. You've been speaking reality into existence all along. It's time to do it on purpose. Most people live their entire lives chasing money, running after it like it's always 2 steps ahead. They believe they need to hustle harder, push more, sacrifice sleep, and struggle just to get by. But here's the truth, spoken by sages, mystics, and now confirmed by science: what you chase runs away, because chasing implies lack, and lack is a frequency that repels abundance. Let's slow that down. When you repeat powerful, wealth-aligned sentences daily, you're not just throwing words into the wind. You're realigning your internal state, and you stop vibrating with desperation, and you start resonating with sufficiency. And from that place, money doesn't need to be pursued. It begins to appear. It shows up in new clients, inspired ideas, open doors, and unexpected channels. Not by coincidence, but by resonance. This is not blind optimism, this is the law of alignment. Think about a radio. If you're tuned into 89.7 FM, you won't hear the music playing on 104.3. It's not that 104.3 isn't broadcasting, it is. You're just not tuned in. That's how wealth works. Abundance is always broadcasting, but most people are mentally tuned into fear, scarcity, and just enough. When you begin to speak wealth-minded affirmations daily, sentences rooted in prosperity, not poverty, you begin shifting your internal dial. You tune into the frequency where money lives. Now let's talk psychology. The human brain operates largely through repetition. Repeated thoughts form neural pathways. Repeated words shape your dominant beliefs. and beliefs become behavior. Behavior creates results. So if you're constantly speaking about stress, debt, or limitation, that becomes your psychological baseline, and life begins to mirror it. Not because the world is punishing you, but because you're unintentionally asking for it. When Florence Scovel Shinn wrote, "A man must prepare for the thing he has asked for, when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight," she wasn't being poetic. She was being precise. When you speak in alignment with wealth, you are preparing for wealth. You're showing the universe, and yourself, that you believe it's already on its way. And that belief changes everything. It changes how you show up in the world. It changes how people perceive you. And it changes what becomes possible for you. But let's be honest, this isn't easy at first. Because most of us were raised with negative programming around money. We were taught it's hard to earn, dangerous to have, or immoral to desire. And so even when we want abundance, we unconsciously resist it. We speak one thing, but feel another. That's where the daily repetition comes in. By speaking these 10 sentences daily, you're not just putting words into the air. You're overriding outdated scripts. You're laying down new mental tracks that lead to new destinations. This is what alignment looks like. When your words, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are all moving in the same direction, it's a feeling of flow, of ease, of certainty. And in that state, money doesn't need to be chased. It comes because you become the kind of person it's drawn to. So if you've been asking, how do I attract more wealth? The answer is simpler than you think. Start by aligning your inner world with the wealth you seek. Speak as if it's already yours. Declare your worth, affirm your abundance, and refuse to entertain any thought that contradicts it. Because the truth is, money doesn't come to those who want it most. It comes to those who are aligned with it. Fear is the great blocker. Not circumstances, not background, not lack of opportunity. Fear, it's invisible, yet powerful. It creeps in quietly, whispering things like, what if it doesn't work? What if I lose everything? What if I'm not enough? And here's the subtle danger: fear doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it sounds like logic. It wears the mask of practicality. It hides behind caution, disguised as wisdom. But make no mistake, when fear controls your inner dialogue, it also controls your outer results. Now let's understand this from a deeper level. The mind is a fertile field. You can plant faith or you can plant fear. But you can't harvest abundance from seeds of doubt. Most people unconsciously choose fear every day, simply because it's familiar. It's what they were taught. Society, schools, even families often emphasize caution over courage, safety over faith. So when it comes to money, people don't speak from power. They speak from protection, from trying not to lose instead of expecting to win. And this is where everything breaks down. Florence Scovel was clear. Fear is man's only enemy. Why? Because fear neutralizes your creative force. It shuts down your intuition. It causes you to hesitate when you should leap, to shrink when you should expand, and to play small when life is asking you to step into something greater. Now think about what happens when you start your day speaking powerful sentences. Sentences rooted in certainty, abundance, divine order. You're not just reciting lines. You're declaring war on fear. You're replacing the anxious mind with a faith-filled one. You're programming your nervous system to relax, to trust, to receive. It's important to understand that faith and fear both require belief in something unseen. Fear imagines the worst, and faith imagines the best. But both are acts of imagination. So the question becomes, which one are you rehearsing every day? Which one are you speaking into your world? Let's be honest. Many people treat fear like it's responsible thinking. They repeat phrases like, I need to be realistic, or, better not get my hopes up. But realism without vision becomes resignation. It creates a ceiling you were never meant to live under. And when your language is full of limits, your life will be too. The sentences you speak daily should not just affirm abundance. They should dismantle fear. They should remind you that supply is not dependent on the stock market, the government, or even your current job. True supply comes from the infinite. And the infinite is never bankrupt. That's why Florence said, faith is expectancy. What you expect, you attract. What you fear, you also attract. Because fear is just another form of intense focus. So how do you break the cycle? You begin by speaking what you want instead of what you fear. Every single day. Even when it feels fake. Especially when it feels fake. Because your subconscious doesn't care if it's true. It only cares if it's repeated. That's how new truths are born. That's how fear is replaced by inner knowing. There will be moments when fear still arises. That's natural, but it no longer has to rule you. You don't have to entertain it. You don't have to believe it. And most importantly, you don't have to speak it. When you choose faith over fear, not just once but daily, not just in crisis but in calm, you shift everything. You shift how you think, how you move, and what flows into your life. Fear waits for permission. Faith takes the first step. So speak from faith. Loudly, daily, relentlessly. Let your words reflect not where you've been, but where you're going. Let your voice carry the sound of someone who expects miracles, because once faith becomes your language, abundance becomes your lifestyle. Change doesn't begin outside. It begins inside. It begins in the quiet, often unnoticed corners of the subconscious mind. This is where your financial reality is truly formed. Not in your job title, not in your circumstances, and not in your current bank balance. Those are just effects. The real cause lies in the deep mental scripts you've been running for years. Scripts you didn't write, but inherited, absorbed, and accepted without question. Most people live out beliefs that were handed to them in childhood. Money is hard to earn. Rich people are greedy. You have to struggle to succeed. These beliefs, repeated often enough, become internal truths. And once something is accepted as true in the subconscious, it becomes automatic. You begin acting from that belief without realizing it. You undercharge, overspend, procrastinate, or self-sabotage. Not because you're lazy or incapable, but because your subconscious is just doing its job to prove your beliefs right. Now here's where it gets fascinating and empowering. Your subconscious mind is incredibly obedient. It doesn't question your logic. It doesn't ask whether your words are reasonable or dramatic. It simply responds to repetition and emotion. The more often you speak something, especially when you speak it with feeling, the more deeply it embeds itself into your internal operating system. That's why speaking these 10 sentences daily is not just motivational. It's transformational. Each time you affirm abundance, declare your worth, or claim your financial power, you are actively rewiring your subconscious mind. You are laying down new neural pathways. At first, they may feel awkward or unfamiliar, because the old patterns have been running the show for so long. But with consistency, the new programming becomes dominant. You've been thinking differently. You respond to challenges with faith instead of fear. You feel deserving instead of doubtful. And you start taking the kinds of actions that align with wealth and opportunity. Florence Scovel Shinn knew this well. She said, "You can control any situation if you first control yourself." And self-control, in this sense, means mental discipline. The discipline to choose your words, to guard your thoughts, and to consciously direct your inner dialogue toward what you actually want. Let's be clear. This isn't about pretending problems don't exist. It's about refusing to speak from a place of powerlessness. It's about recognizing that while you may not control every external factor, you do control the inner narrative that shapes your response, and ultimately, your results. The problem is, most people don't repeat empowering words long enough to create lasting change. They try it for a day or two, don't see instant results, and revert back to the old language of doubt and disappointment. But this isn't a quick fix. It's a deep, internal renovation. It's about building a foundation so strong that no external storm can shake it. And yes, it requires patience. It requires faith. It requires the courage to speak what you desire even when your current reality contradicts it. That's what real mental mastery looks like. Choosing belief over evidence until the evidence catches up. Because it will catch up. When you rewire your subconscious mind through daily spoken truth, you're not just dreaming. You're designing. You're authoring a new identity. One that aligns with wealth, ease, confidence, and spiritual power. So keep speaking, keep repeating, keep sowing those seeds of prosperity. The mind will always follow the most repeated command. Make sure the one you give it leads to the life you actually want. Every word you speak is a seed. It may seem small and insignificant in the moment, but like any seed, it carries within it the blueprint of a future. A thought becomes a word becomes a belief becomes a behavior. And that behavior shapes your destiny. This is not theory. This is spiritual law. And once you understand it, you'll never again treat your words lightly. Most people are planting seeds unconsciously. They say things like, "Nothing ever works out for me," or "I'll never get ahead," without realizing that these phrases are not just expressions of frustration. They're instructions. The subconscious hears them and begins adjusting behavior, energy, and focus to align with that script. And as those words are repeated, they take root. And once rooted, they grow, often into outcomes that look like bad luck or chronic financial struggle. But this same law, when used intentionally, becomes your greatest ally. When you begin speaking sentences rooted in truth, abundance, and divine provision, you are planting new seeds. Seeds with a different harvest. You're not just talking about prosperity. You're calling it forth. You're creating mental and emotional conditions that welcome it. And like any garden, this requires consistency and care. You wouldn't plant flowers one day and then dig them up the next because they didn't bloom overnight. Yet that's exactly how most people treat spiritual and mental practices. They give up too early. They abandon the soil before it has time to work. Florence Scovel Shinn was crystal clear when she said, "The game of life is a game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy." What she meant was everything you send out is on its way back to you. So when you speak from faith, gratitude, and clarity, even if nothing seems to be happening, you are setting in motion invisible forces. Your words begin to build momentum, and in time, they return, not always in the form you expect, but always in alignment with the essence you released. This is where trust becomes essential. You won't always see the seed grow right away. There may be moments of doubt, moments when the external circumstances don't reflect your internal work. But remember, the seed does not sprout the day it is planted. There is a period of dormancy, of unseen activity beneath the surface. The roots are forming. The soil is responding. The universe is reorganizing. You must remain steady in your speaking, unwavering in your vision, because the law will not fail you. But it does require your patience and faith. There's something profoundly powerful about choosing to speak prosperity when lack surrounds you. It's an act of rebellion against the old paradigm. It's a declaration that you trust in a higher law. One that says abundance is your divine right, and your words are the instrument that activates it. And every time you speak one of these 10 sentences, you are watering the soil. You are nurturing the invisible. You are preparing your mind and life for a greater harvest. So let your words be like morning rain. Gentle but consistent. Let them fall on the soil of your subconscious with purpose. Speak as one who knows the harvest is coming, even if the ground still looks bare. Because it is. And once you believe that, your language changes, your energy changes, and your reality soon follows. Every sentence you speak in faith is a seed of power. Plant it wisely, tend it daily, and trust that the harvest will arrive. Rich, abundant, and right on time. Wealth is not something you chase. It's something you attract. And you attract it not by working harder alone, but by becoming a vibrational match for it. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about prosperity. People often believe money is only the result of effort, skill, or luck. But there's another dimension. One that Florence Scovel Shinn understood deeply. Money comes to those who are aligned with it. Those who feel its presence inwardly before it shows up outwardly. You can't become rich by feeling poor. You can't attract abundance while speaking lack. You have to become the thing you desire before it arrives. That's not delusion. That's alignment. And alignment is magnetic. Think of it this way: everything you want already exists in some form. The clients, the ideas, the promotions, the opportunities, they're out there, right now. The question is, can they find you? Are you available to them? Are you tuned into the frequency where they exist? That's what your words do. They signal your readiness. They clarify your vibration. When you speak sentences of wealth and sufficiency each day, you're not begging the universe. You're broadcasting who you are. You're saying, I am no longer available for struggle. I am no longer aligned with scarcity. I am now a match for ease, flow, and increase. And when you say that, consistently and with conviction, something subtle but profound begins to happen. Your energy changes, your posture changes, your decisions change. You start walking like someone who is already supported. And the world responds. This isn't imagination. It's how the subconscious mind works. When you speak the language of wealth, your brain begins to scan for proof. It looks for confirmation of the new identity you've declared. It notices opportunity where it once saw only dead ends. It moves toward growth where it used to hesitate in fear. Your words become the compass, and your mind follows where they lead. Florence said, man must prepare for the thing he has asked for, when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. That preparation isn't always physical. it's energetic. And the fastest way to prepare energetically is to speak and feel as though it's already done. That's the secret of becoming a money magnet. You feel rich now. You practice wealth before it's visible. You become the type of person who holds prosperity with grace, even before your circumstances reflect it. And here's what's beautiful: you don't have to figure out how the money will come. That's not your job. Your job is to speak with authority, move with confidence, and hold a vibration of gratitude and expectancy. The rest will take care of itself. Doors open, people reach out, resources appear, and you'll find yourself saying things like, "I don't even know how that happened. It just came together." But deep down, you do know. It happened because you became a match for it. You prepared the space. You magnetized it through your daily alignment. Let me be clear, this isn't just about repeating pretty phrases. It's about embodying a new reality. The 10 sentences are not spells. They are reminders. They remind you of who you truly are: a powerful co-creator, a vessel for divine supply, a worthy receiver of all that is good and abundant. So speak them, not as a wish, but as a truth. Feel them, not as a fantasy, but as your foundation. And keep speaking them until your entire being resonates with their message. Until wealth no longer feels foreign, but familiar. Because when you become the magnet, you don't have to chase anything. You simply receive what was already trying to find you.